Welcome back to Square Off. The story of people experiencing homelessness in the valley is entering a new chapter. What was once a cluster of homeless people largely around downtown Phoenix is now disrupting neighborhoods all over the city. Working class Phoenicians are seeing it in parks near their homes, even at their doorsteps. But it's not a problem in wealthier areas. So why is this happening, and what is the city's response? The Arizona Republic's Jessica Boehm is the leading reporter on the homelessness crisis. She did a deep dive uncovering these latest developments. Jessica, welcome back to Square Off.
Thanks, Graham.
You spoke to a lot of folks in neighborhoods who told you their stories, and you backed that up with compelling data. Start by sharing some of the conversations with homeowners. Was there a consistent theme?
Yeah, definitely. I think that over the last few years, homelessness has become much more visible. People are on the streets as opposed to in shelters. And I've been hearing from people, especially in working class neighborhoods, that are seeing their parks overrun, houses, vacant homes being broken into by people experiencing homelessness and other people that might be preying upon people experiencing homelessness. And a lot of their concerns are not about, I don't want to see a homeless person. It's more some of the criminal activity that it is bringing to their neighborhoods. I talk to people who, saw drug deals go down as they're taking their daughter to the park, who have experienced acts of violence and seen that very visibly. I've talked to people experiencing homelessness in these parts of the cities that have been shot at and have had really terrible things happen to them. So this is really becoming a significant problem inside our neighborhoods.
Yeah, and you spoke to one woman who said, I just want to carry my groceries into my house and not feel like I'm going to get shot. And she doesn't live in what you consider a bad neighborhood.
No, she lives a couple miles from Arcadia, probably the wealthiest pocket of all of Phoenix. But that's what's kind of interesting about this is, people are choosing some of these more working class neighborhoods to stay in because they don't get disrupted as much by police or city service workers as they would if they were in Arcadia per se.
And that's a new development you bring to light, this disparity between wealthier areas and not so wealthy areas. You created a map plotting almost 4,000 homeless encampments all over Phoenix. The visuals are striking. What did the map tell you?
Well, the most staggering part is just looking at all of the encampments that have been reported. It's hard to imagine that many, clusters of people experiencing homelessness throughout our city. But when you drill down a little deeper, you can see that the biggest clusters are, of course, in neighborhoods that are more lower income. You're not seeing the same amount of clusters in Arcadia and certain areas like that. But they are around, West Phoenix, South Phoenix, the area around the airport, some of our more working class neighborhoods. And a big reason for that is Phoenix, like most cities in the valley, is a complaint driven city. So responses are only going to come from the city if the complaints are made. And for a number of reasons, people in these neighborhoods are less likely to call in some of these complaints.
A complaint-driven city. And so you talked to neighbors about their complaints and what kind of response they got. What did you find?
Well, it was a little surprising because I covered City Hall for years and saw, some neighborhoods in our more wealthy parts of the city, go to city council meetings and get whole development stopped for things like fear of traffic or fear of losing their sight lines of the mountain. But it seems like neighbors in these communities don't get that same treatment. Several of them were told, we're really busy. It's going to take us a while. Or, at some point they just stopped calling because they didn't feel like it was a worthwhile, time spent because they're not seeing the results that they think that they should.
What was Mayor Kate Gallego's response to this story? She's been a champion of her own efforts to create more beds for homeless people. What was her response to the story?
Unfortunately, the mayor would not agree to an interview with me, so I'd love to know.
I want to end on a bit of hope. You do point to some people making a difference in dealing with this problem. Jeff Spellman, can you just tell us his story, what he's doing?
Sure, yeah, there is some hope. There are some neighborhoods, for instance, Jeff's neighborhood, which is along the I-17 corridor, has been working to try to kind of create agreements with the city of like, we'll agree to having so many services and shelter beds if you agree to having more enforcement of some of the blight and crime in those neighborhoods. And so in his neighborhood, for instance, the neighborhood ultimately supported a new shelter that'll come online hopefully early next year, that will provide space for about 100 seniors that live on our streets currently. So his advice was for neighborhoods to try to work with the city to give a little and get a little.
Interesting, very interesting. You can read Jessica's story on azcentral.com.